don't know it ourselves, then we're maybe no good enough.
Some people just like stick around for a bit too long.
Yeah, get out like quicker than everyone else, coat really fast, proper professional coat put together.
We're then the company that has to give the customer the bearer of bad news and say, oh, sorry, you're going to have a trim there.
Hi guys, welcome back to Taylor Talks Trades. I'm your host, Jamie Taylor. Let me know in the comments what you think of the show and subscribe so we can become the #1 trades podcast. In this episode, we are with Alex Durham from Smartwood Flooring. He's talking about how he started off wanting to join the army to then moving up to Scotland where he started Smartwood Flooring, and he's going to tell us all about his journey so far. Let's get into the show. Hi Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How did you get into the trades then?
So it started, obviously, when I was at school. I wasn't really academically good. So my parents said to me that I should come and join them in the flooring show. So I originally wanted actually to join the army, and then my parents were like, no. So they were like, just come do 6 weeks over the summer holidays to see how you get on, like work experience and things like that. So I was like, okay. I started there in 2005, and then and that's how I kind of got into it. Just.
So did the parents have their own shop then? So they were already in the flooring industry, and is that what?
Yeah. So my dad started the flooring shop. We didn't have a shop. It was just like my dad and my mum.
Yeah.
And then obviously when my mum was like, "Oh, you're not going into the army," I kind of just went in with them.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like was there for 13 years, and then I kind of like outgrew them.
Yeah.
I started doing all their Instagrams and things like that, and mum was showing me how to do all the estimating and things like that. So after that, I kind of just got to a point where I was just like, I'm ready to kind of go on my own.
Do your own thing.
Yeah. And it was just randomly I put up a Instagram post online, and then someone commented on it and was like, oh, you're doing it wrong. And then the company that like KHR, so it's for the sanding side of things. They got in contact with me and was like, oh, have you ever done any training? And we was like, no, it's just obviously my dad's taught me. And they were like, oh, come down and we'll give you some free lessons in sanding and things like that. So I was like, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
And so we went down, and I kind of started to seeing outside of what my parents can do. And then the KHR, they start doing flying sand. So it's basically where you go into Germany, and then from Germany, you do all your PST trainings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I kind of I kind of just grew and grew. I really enjoyed doing all the.
Let's go back a wee bit, right? So, the army.
Yeah.
How did you think you were going to go to the army? What was the thought process behind that? Like, did you just have it set in your mind, I'm going to go and do this, and then why was the parents against that? Like, what was the going on there? Because I want to get a wee bit. You're kind of flying through it, so I've got the idea now, but I want to understand, right? The dynamic changed there, and then I want to know a wee bit probably like, right, what was it your parents were doing, and then what did you feel was different? So start with the army. What was going on there? Did you just think, right, I'm no academic, I'm going to leave school with probably no qualifications like most of us trades guys, and did you just think that's the only thing for me, or what was that there?
Yeah, so the army, I always had quite an obsession with the army. I really enjoyed it. I was part of the cadets, and I liked the structure that it kind of gave me. And so my thinking was that when I left school, because I didn't know what I wanted to do or anything like that, I was like, the army is obviously, I could do kind of anything then. So yeah, I wanted to be an RMP in the army.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I was 16 at the time. You couldn't just join the army.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll go into the college there, and that. But obviously, I had to have my parents' permission to do it.
Yeah.
So obviously, when I said to my parents about it, because obviously I think that was the time when it was like Afghanistan's kind of there and
Yeah.
things like that. So I think my parents
It's a
were
scary
just
time
scared.
for to let your son go off to the army, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Much safer in the flooring game.
yeah, I know, right? But yeah, so they were like, oh, when you turn 18, then obviously relook at going into the army. And so that's how I kind of like, my parents were like,
Yeah.
well, now you need to get a job.
So what were they doing? So your mum and dad both together, and
Yep.
so your mum's kind of helping with, I'm guessing, like the old cliche, but she's helping with the admin side and maybe
Yep.
taking calls, and then your dad's actually fitting the floors. Was
Yep.
this carpets and like hardwoods, or was it all hardwoods at that time, or what was the sort of?
So at that time, it was just sanding. It was hardwood and engineered solids,
Yeah.
laminates. LVT wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's-
And so when did, and then what was the progression there then? So you said that you were there like 13 years. Was that, did you just learn how to fit all
Yes.
different types of flooring from your dad? He would
Yeah.
teach you all the different techniques.
Yeah, so my dad kind of met a guy that he kind of learned all of the flooring trade, and so he kind of taught my dad, and then
Yeah.
my dad taught me,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of one of those things where it's just you just keep learning from the next generation down. So yeah, so I kind of just followed in my dad's footsteps and was kind of, to start with, I was like an apprentice kind of thing, and then obviously from there I kind of like grew up into the business, and then I started taking my own jobs on. I had my own van, and then eventually towards the end I've got my own like boy
Yeah.
that helped me around and things like that. And then obviously that's where when I got to about 23, I think was when I met my wife. Things kind of like changed. I think like I kind of stopped going out drinking. I kind of was like, okay, who I found Tani, who's my wife now. Well, I was like, oh, this is the girl that I want to settle down with, make a future. And then from there, my entrepreneurial kind of side of me kind of came out.
Yeah.
I always kept saying to my parents, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. I'm still yet to get there. But yeah, so I kind of had that kind of buzz around the business, and always had done. I just always assumed that I would take over my parents' business, but obviously that wasn't the case. I just felt like obviously things weren't progressing the way that I thought they were with my parents.
Yeah. And so you just decided, I'm going to go out on my own at that point, or it would have probably naturally started to come through, but
Yeah, so there was a couple of things that happened. So obviously, when me and Tani got married, we obviously wanted to buy a property, and obviously being in England, that is like gold dust. It's just like never going to happen unless you are a millionaire. So my brother-in-law kept saying to us, "Oh, you need to move up to Scotland." And I only visited Scotland maybe like 3 or 4 times before we moved up. And I was just like, I don't know if we can do it. Like, it's such a big jump. If I move away, then that's like half of my parents' business gone. There's personal reasons as well, that obviously I needed to, not needed, but I wanted to move away. And so we kind of come to the conclusion that obviously moving to Scotland would be our best bet and to start on our own.
Yeah.
So when I went on to the KHR Flying Sand, I met a guy from Scotland. I think he was in Kilmarnock, and he said to me, "Oh, if you ever move to Scotland, then I'll happily give you a job," and things like that. So, yeah, so that's kind of how I started to venture out onto my own.
Yeah. So did you came up to Scotland then, and did you go and work for this guy, or?
Yeah, so I didn't work for him. I just like subbied for
Yeah.
him. And yeah, so I did that for about 8 months, and I absolutely hated it. Like, I hated, because obviously working for my parents, it was kind of like, although I was employed, it was almost like like a like
Yeah.
I was working for myself. That's how it kind of felt.
Yeah.
So my parents would just give me the job and off I kind of went, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so as when I was working for him, it was kind of like I was looking at the jobs going, oh, like look at all this money that I could be making, and I'm only getting like a really small percentage of this. So yeah, so that kind of came to an end during COVID. And then then was like, right, okay, now I need to focus on my own business. Like now I've kind of got set up. I'm kind of in Scotland. I kind of know the areas a little bit better. I know where I need to be like putting my advertisement and stuff like that. So I kind of so I kind of just got to know the area, and I got to know how things working, get all my like accounts set up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like just started getting myself out there, because obviously when I came I had nothing, so
Yeah.
it was just really difficult. And to obviously start a business in an area that you have no idea whether or not it's going to work,
Yeah, it's quite daunting, that.
yeah, it was quite scary. But
And then what was the sort of steps that you've like you took or you're taking to sort of get yourself out there? Because there is a big difference from like, well, working for your parents in the first instance, because they're probably pulling those jobs in and then you're going and doing the jobs, and then even the next guy, like the guy from Kilmarnock, he's probably winning the jobs in, and then you're just going and doing them, and then that changes very dramatically when you need to then actually attract someone to you, go and visit them, give them a quote or whatever, and then actually get to the job. So like, was that quite a hard transition for you, or was that okay? Did that come quite naturally to you? Or?
I think it was quite difficult to start with. So I did. I joined a. I don't know really what it is. It's called My Builder,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like where you get jobs come in, and then but it was the jobs that were coming in. They kind of weren't my jobs, but it was getting my name out there. So I kind of started doing that for a bit, and then once I started doing that, people would then recommend me. I found Scottish people love to recommend anyone to everyone.
Yeah.
So once you're in with that person, they'll recommend you to so many people, and then once you're in with them, they'll recommend you. So so I would say a lot of that is recommendation, and obviously I do a lot of Instagram. I do a lot of my own videos and things like that.
Yeah, I think I was on My Builder back in the day as well, with my roofing business, and it was quite cutthroat, if that makes sense. So it was very much like, I know they were usually getting like 3, 4, 5 quotes, and then 9 times out of 10 it seemed as though they were like just choosing the cheapest one. And the only thing I don't overly like with those sites is that everyone's meant to be vetted. So like, if you get 5 quotes and one's the cheapest, then you're kind of thinking, well, they're all vetted anyway, so nothing should go wrong here. But I gave it a go for a while, and then we just gave like a really, really good service. So we would get out like quicker than everyone else, quote really fast, proper professional quote put together, all typed up and emailed across or whatnot. And then it usually worked quite well. But then I think as our business grew and our overheads grew, it just meant we probably were competing against like literally like one-person roofers, where we were like now had like staff and quite a bigger like sort of overhead and stuff with like premises and whatnot. So it was it probably grew out of that. But it's a great place to start. It's probably a good like, a lot of people ask about like Check a Trade, My Builder, these things, and I think they work for a certain point of time,
for sure.
and then you but you're always trying to get to that point of having your own leads, essentially, your own customers coming in. And
for me, over a period of time, it became super expensive to do. So I would rather, instead of giving my builder the money, which was I think I was spending up to about £600 like a month or something like that, I can then put that into my own advertisement, which obviously makes more sense. Now, once you got I think My Builder's great for a startup, and once you got that ball rolling, and you got work coming in and you got that kind of flow, then I think you should kind of move away from it. But I find some people just like stick around for a bit too long. But then I kept finding that the jobs that were coming up weren't quite the the customers that I was looking for. And then obviously you're trying to explain to them that, it could be like a complex job where obviously you might need screeding and things like that. And the customer's like, oh, well, the other company that came in, they weren't going to do that. And which means that obviously we were going to be more expensive. And, it's like you said, you kind of then competing against someone that's maybe not on the same level as you. And these customers are just wanting a quick quote and just want to get their floors done and kind of you out of the way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there is a lot of some people, like, they just can't see by the cost sometimes, and to do things right is sometimes a bit more expensive. So it's probably a massively important part of it, actually getting that, like, it's not a foundation, but the foundation is such correct, and making sure everything's level and not just rattling a floor down and then hoping for the best, but in 6 months' time they're maybe needing to rip that up because it's all like wonky or whatever. So no, it makes a lot of sense. It's always good in those early stages. Like I was just kind of thinking about it. I was just thinking about it there as you were talking about that. It's always good, like that first kind of win where you're like, a job comes in, you go and visit the customer, they say yes, and you're like, oh, this is it. Like I'm off to the races kind of thing. It's a nice feeling that probably a lot of like trades guys actually forget about, because it's just, there's so many customers thereafter. But like, can you remember that feeling of the first time somebody actually, because you'd moved up here as well, you were sort of, is this going to work, is it not? And like, can you remember your first customer that you went, right, I'm going to have the faith in you?
Yeah, for sure. My very first customer, he was a guy over in Glasgow, and I'd posted stuff on my Instagram anyway, from obviously working for my parents. But obviously it's still my work. It was just down in England. And so he was just like, I really like your work on Instagram and things like that. So he was like, oh, it's just a small hallway, but if you want, you can stand that. And I was like, yes, absolutely. But yeah, it was obviously, for me, I started the company up here in 2019, which means like that year was the year that we went into COVID. So I've just kind of like moved up, and then we kind of went straight into kind of lockdown. And so then I was kind of like trying to use COVID, and so I found that people either went up in COVID and absolutely thrived, or they just went straight under and they couldn't cope with it. But I kind of found that we kind of thrived through it. So I just found a way to get through that, and then just kind of just took everything that I had from that being so busy.
And where's things at now then? What's going on in the, like, your world just now? What's your like you've kind of taken us on that journey, you've started up, but like I'm guessing things are you're starting to get that momentum now. What's kind of where are you at now, basically?
So my next steps is to get an apprentice, but obviously like getting an apprentice is difficult because obviously there's nothing around for the flooring. There's that you could get like carpets for
courses for carpets.
Thank you. Courses for carpets and things like that. You can get like MVQs for carpets and things like that, but there's nothing for the sand inside. There's nothing for the engineered. There's literally nothing really there. But a lot of people, you don't really fall into. You don't leave school and then go, I know, I'm just going to be a floor fitter. You kind of fall into it like I did. A lot of people. So I don't know. I would like to see there be something more learning wise.
So really what probably, it must be quite niche then in that sense, because most people who's going to get into it is probably their dad's maybe doing it or their uncle's doing it or something like that, as opposed to it being sort of maybe like some of the other trades, like maybe plumbing and heating, for example, or joinery. Like they're quite big trades where you can go to college, or you can even do like a pre-apprenticeship course that gives you the access into that. But there's nothing there for flooring really. Is it just carpet fitting?
It's mostly carpet fitting. Anything else you have to go to like the manufacturers. I think there's one small company that does like LVT, and so you have to kind of like find everything. So if I was to take an apprentice off, I would have to go to like the manufacturers, and then they have like 2 or 3 day courses, and then you'll have LVT courses,
Yep.
but they're nothing to do with they're like independent
Yeah.
companies.
So it's
They're
just
not,
for their product,
yeah.
basically. Yeah.
So there's nothing that you could come out of school, like if you was like an electrician, you'll come out of school and just be like, I'm going to go to college.
Yeah.
And I think that there should be something for flooring to go, oh, I want to leave school, I want to go and go straight into college
Yeah.
and study it. I think it's a big enough industry now that, and it's very complex as well. A lot of people think that you just kind of come in and just throw the floor down and off you go, but it's more to like the sub floor, like the sub base and things
Yeah.
like that, and moistures and the tolerances, and there's so much more to just fitting the floor
Yeah.
itself. And then the same with sanding. Like obviously you'd have to go to the manufacturers for the sanding
Yeah.
and things like that. So
What's the sort of process of the sanding then? So is that when, like, so the hardwood flooring's fitted, but I'm guessing that lasts quite a long time, but you need to come back and sand it. Like, is it every so many years, or what's the?
yeah, so you get like there's a couple. So Glasgow basically is the tenement flats. They are all pine floorboards.
Yeah.
So I'll go in and I would sand all those pine floorboards all back to like the natural colours and things like that, and give
Yeah.
them the new lease of life and stuff. Or you got the engineered or solid that someone may have fitted and engineered like 20 years ago, and it's sort of getting worn.
Yeah.
And so you kind of look at it and go, okay, that needs sanding. So obviously I'll strip it back and then reapply all the coats again. And then obviously you got your solids. Again, the solids is, if I fitted a solid floor, I would then sand it and then finish it itself.
Yeah. Interesting. And sort of like business can be quite a lonely place, and obviously like you sort of being on your own. What kind of things have you done to try and like reach out to other people and things like that? I think I seen on your Instagram that like you maybe work with like a mentorship group and things. Has that been quite helpful for you?
Yeah, so I am in a group of about, I think there's about 50 other flooring companies. So we're getting quite big now.
Wow.
And that's with Cock & Co.
Yeah.
And they've just opened my mind to the whole world of business. Like, because I had like a basic interest in business, and I
Yeah.
kind of knew what I was doing. But they do something that's called Flooring Freedom, and it's basically where you go on a 2-day course and they teach you everything you need to know about anything to do with Instagram, how to quote, how to do the surveying, how much you should be charging, and things
Yeah.
like that. And a lot of people in the flooring industry, they kind of it's just one of those things where a lot of people do it per square meter. So you'll go and they'll say, oh, this is like X amount per square meter, as where they teach you, you should kind of, because you can't see how much you're earning a month and your overheads and things like that if you're doing it per square meter.
Yeah.
So you can't average anything. So they
Yeah.
kind of teach you to do it a different way, to then obviously, so you can see how much you're earning and make
Yeah.
sure that you can grow and make sure you should be hitting these sale targets and things like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of side of things kind of opened my eyes up. And yeah, so they do loads of different things like that.
Yeah, no, that sounds quite interesting, and it's like it's quite interesting, like a niche, how there's so many that's come together like that as well, and it's all, and then is that all over the UK? Is that?
Yeah, so that's literally everywhere,
So
and
there's
we all
like-
just come together every quarterly, and it's nice that we have like weekly meetings as well.
Yeah.
So if there's any issues or anything like that, then we can all discuss it and how we're going to get around these issues. And at the moment, I think yesterday we were discussing when builders put in their their windows and doors, they have to leave an expansion gap for the subfloor, which is sometimes can be up to 45 mil.
Yeah.
But obviously, we don't know how to then bring that floor up to that 45 mil, because obviously you're going to have a gap. So it's like you can fill it with obviously concrete and stuff, but then what happens is then you're going to have moisture coming through, and it's how we're going to stop that from happening, and
Yeah.
you know, and still stay in with the building regulations as well,
Yeah.
because obviously the builders are saying to us, oh well, that's, you know, it's part of the building regulations, you have to have it.
Yeah.
But then obviously it doesn't help us, because you know, you can't just put a 45 mil trim over the doors.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because you've got some customers that want the floor to go right up to the doors.
Yeah.
And then we're then the company that has to give the customer either the bearer of bad news and
Yeah.
say, oh, sorry, you're going to have a trim there,
Yeah.
or we have to speak with the builder and to try and come around this problem that we're having.
So do you guys as a group then just sort of like discuss these technical issues and see
Yeah.
like what other people's doing and what the solution might be?
Yeah. So it could be anything. So that's just like
One example.
One example.
But it could be like to do with quoting,
Yeah.
like the survey itself.
How to deal with customers, you know, how to deal with if I wanted to get into like commercial,
Yeah.
then there's people there that are more commercial than they are domestic.
Yeah.
And how to do tenders and things like that. So it is really good group to be part of. And also because we are becoming bigger and bigger, there are sometimes there's people that are meeting each other to obviously help each other do work and things like that.
Yeah.
So it just stops it from being such a lonely place.
Yeah, no, it sounds quite good because a lot of people, especially trades, like guys, you know, we can just be a bit like sort of switched off to asking for help and like thinking if we don't know it ourselves, then we're maybe no good enough. But it's really important, I think, that people do like reach out for help and also give help as well, because it's good to be part of something where you can give back into it, but also if you need that support the other way, it's there. That's interesting. And is there's other parts to that as well? So it's like it's got the technical side, but like it looks as though like you do some sort of like team bonding type stuff, or
Yeah,
like,
so every quarterly we
Yeah.
get together and we go through all of what happened the last 3 months,
Yeah.
and then obviously we take a look at like what worked, what didn't work, and then basically apply what's going to happen in the next 3 months.
yeah, so there's a bit of accountability and stuff there
Yeah.
as well. And
So it's, you know, people are like, oh, did you get that job and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So you got people that are rooting for you as
Yeah.
well, and you know, and it's just a really good community to be part of.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then after we have our quarterlies, we then have a social together as well. So the last one we did was paddleboarding,
Yeah.
which was quite good.
Yeah, no, it sounds fun. It sounds like a good community to be part of, and I think it's always important for anyone to like build their network as well, especially like-minded individuals. Because I'm guessing anyone who joins that, they're probably looking to grow and maybe evolve a bit. So next steps for you then is
So the next step is to get an apprentice
Yep.
for sure. I think my lead time is too big now, so I have to get an apprentice.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that when I do get an apprentice, that they're gonna stay with me,
Yeah.
and so I want to really try and delve deep into the learning side and make sure I've got some kind of structure
Yeah.
to that, for them to then stay around. So then the company will grow, and then they can grow into a new position, and then we'll bring someone else on.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it with apprentices. It really is. You're probably at a bit of a disadvantage just because you've maybe not got an exact look. Here's the qualification you can achieve, but I guess there's work to be done in that space of trying to find how flooring could become, I guess, a recognised trade would be probably the thing.
Yeah, well, it should be a recognised
Yeah.
trade, because it is one of those. It's a finishing trade, I think.
Yeah.
It should be classed as a trade.
Yeah.
Um,
Why do you think it's not? Is it just
I don't know. I think people just assume that you kind of come in and just throw a floor down,
Yeah.
and you kind of, everyone and their mothers can probably do a floor, which to an extent, yes, they can.
You could say that about any trade though.
Exactly.
Sometimes though,
You know, you get a lot of people that can plaster themselves, but at what good quality is that, and what kind of products and things like that. So it's just really trying to get people to understand like what's actually involved in flooring, and also what and get maybe like the government to have a look at like maybe starting up something.
Surely with your group as well, like if there's 50 people in there, there's a bit of a voice. So if everyone's saying the same thing, look, we need this to be a recognised industry, we need this to have its own qualification, then they just start to build those connections and speaking to people. And
well, that's kind of why my mentors kind of started the group itself originally, because there were so many people that were not like kind of floating around, not really doing much, and you know, don't understand it and things like that. So we kind of like come together, but we kind of got there.
A collective voice.
Yeah, there's a collective of us, and so now we kind of like, you know, we kind of just all discuss these problems, and then, you know, there'll be one of us that will be like, right, okay, we're going to go to the manufacturer of this product and see what they say, and then we'll go and test it on the other products, and we'll try and come to some agreement where we go, right, okay, if you come up against this problem, this is what you're going to have to do. As there's nothing like that at the moment.
So it's quite a it's quite a difficult one where, like, it's hard to get a change like that, but it does sound like it's necessary, because it must be. Does it often fall into, for example, like, would it just be like the joiner's going to fit the floor then, or like who normally fits it if it's, or is it seen that, like, right, we need the floor fitter in? Like, who does it? Say a new build, for example, who does the floor in there? Is that part of the joiner's package?
So normally, if it's a new build, it'll be the builder, predominantly. But now what's happening is that the problems that builders are coming up against is that when you put the subfloor in, the concrete base, there's an issue with the screeds. So originally, the company that comes in to pump the screed in then should come back after 7 days and grind the floor off, and that's not happening anymore. So there's companies that say they do it, but they don't. So then when a builder fits the floor, there's like backlash to that, because there's stuff that's called latents on the floor, or there's just like lots of different products, and low quality screeds as well. So low quality screeds in the floor, they have like coal, and the coal is obviously absorbs the moisture, and so if there's lots of that, then obviously you need to try and get that out as much as possible, which means that you have to grind the floor to open it up to let the moisture come out. And you know, there's lots of technical sides of things of that to that, and there's the testings and things like that you need to do, which the builders won't know how to do. And the same with the joiners will probably know more about the moisture, but they won't know where the moisture should be sitting, or you know, they know about, you know, moisture in the floors, in the woods and stuff like that, not in the actual concrete itself. So then obviously when we're turning up to site and we're like, oh, it's a new build, obviously it's going to need to be grinded, and then you're then having to try and explain this to the builder.
Quite complex stuff.
And
if anyone was wanting to get in touch with you, then what's the best way to reach out to you?
So the best way is via either email, which is alex@smartwoodflooring.com, or my Instagram, which is Smartwood Flooring.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for coming on, mate. I appreciate it, and hope you enjoyed it yourself.
Thank you. It's been great fun.
Good man. Thanks for listening to the episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and help us become the #1 trades podcast. I'll see you on the next one.